here. Welcome back. Today's episode is going to be super thought-provoking, and it's going to help give you a baseline of where you're at, because part of the process of knowing where you're going is figuring out how to get there. But if you don't know where you are, then there is no possible way that you can get there, right? I think so often we talk about how important it is to dream big and have these audacious goals. And while, yeah, that is super important, if you don't know where you're at right now, then you're not going to be able to take the right action or take any action towards the life that you want to live. So think about it this way. If you are at a starting point and you don't know where you are, but you know you want to go to Sedona, Arizona, how I might get to Sedona, Arizona from where I'm at in Texas might not be how you get to Sedona, Arizona from whatever state, whatever country you're in. And so you have to know where you are to figure out how to get where you're going, right? So there are some things that I really want you to think about, to dive into, and feel free to pause this episode if you want to journal through some of these questions and really figure out where you're at, because the more clear that you get with where you're at, then you can see how many aspects of these questions do you love, do you like, do you dislike, or do you absolutely hate? Because if there's a lot of things that you love, then you're already on a great start. But if there's a lot of things that you hate, then that's okay too for right now, but that's also going to help us figure out how to take action towards the next step to get towards building a life that you love. My first question for you that I really want you to think about is, what are you currently doing for work? If you're working, I know some of you may not be, some of you might be stay-at-home parents or stay-at-home spouses, whatever that looks like for you. And I'll get to a question for you guys in a second. But if you are working, what are you currently doing for work? How do you earn an income? Do you clock in? Do you run a business? Do you trade? Do you do services for money? What does that look like for you? And if you're not working, are you happy not working? Or do you want to create an extra income from some way that you could stay home? And what's really important to learn and think about through this question is, one, if you're working, do you enjoy the place that you work? Do you enjoy the people that you work with? Do you enjoy what your company's mission is? Because if you don't, then it's time to adjust. If you're currently building a business, or if you're currently trading money for services like plumbing or DoorDash or whatever, you're doing a service, you're getting paid for that service rather than like paid per hour. Do you enjoy doing that? Maybe you clean Airbnbs, right? You get paid per job, per cleaning job. Do you enjoy doing that? Maybe yes, but maybe no. Either answer is fine. But if whatever you're doing for work doesn't light you up and bring you joy and make you feel some kind of fulfillment, it might also be exhausting at the same time, but then it might be time to adjust. And if you're not currently working and you want to either work outside the home or work from the home or create an extra income while you're at home, whatever that might look like, there's a bunch of different options. But if you're not currently working and you want to be creating an extra income, then that's something to take note of. And if you're not currently working and you're totally like just fulfilled, not working, not creating an income, then that's incredible. And that's also important to take note of, because that's a place where you can hold gratitude. I'm so happy, one, that I'm working at a place that I love, or two, that I'm not working and I'm fulfilled in whatever it is that you're doing. Homeschooling your babies, being a stay-at-home parent, whatever that might look like for you. So that's my very first question. Because no matter what side of the scale you're on, you absolutely love it, then that is a place where you can hold gratitude in an aspect of your life that you are so happy with. Or if you don't love it, then make note of that, because that's when it's going to come time to start making action plans around changing some of that. Question number 2 is, who do you spend the most time with? And so instantly my response to this was always like, my kids. Obviously I can't get rid of them, so this is a dumb question. And I would always think that. But what I want to challenge you on is something a little bit deeper. So first, who do you spend the most time with, right? Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your sister, all fine and dandy. But if you can't physically be with these people or be with people because you're a stay-at-home mom of like 3 kids and like it's just crazy to even plan like a girls' lunch or anything, fine. But who do you spend the most time texting? Who do you call? Who do you FaceTime? Who are those people that you reach out to? It can be virtually. Who do you spend the most time with like that? You probably have a bestie that you are always checking in with via text, sending TikToks to, right? We all have one of those besties that just doesn't live near us. So who's that person? But something that I want to dive deeper into that a lot of people don't really think about as far as spending time with these people is, who are your Facebook friends? Who are you following on Instagram? Whose TikToks are you watching? Chances are there's like 5 to 10 people who frequently pop into your Facebook feed or frequently pop into your IG feed or frequently pop onto your TikTok following. Who are those people? Because those people matter. If you spend a lot of time on social media, which again in itself is not a bad thing, but if you are following a bunch of negative people, a bunch of people who are always complaining, a bunch of people who just like hate the world and it's a horrible place to live, then you're soaking that up consciously or subconsciously. Unconsciously? One of the two. You're soaking all of that negativity up. And they count as one of the people that you spend the most time with, even if you're just reading their posts or watching their videos. Because you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Either consciously, you're getting out there, you're meeting these people for lunch, all of those things, or unconsciously, where you're just following them on Facebook and you're continuously absorbing all of their negativity. And so when you start to think about this, I challenge you to open your Facebook newsfeed and look at the top 5, 6, 7 posts that are for you. If they're all negative people, then maybe snooze them for 30 days. Maybe unfollow them. It is okay to unfollow people on Facebook for your own peace of mind, but I challenge you, when you open your social medias, see who those people are. Because chances are their perspective and their worldview is pouring into yours. My next question for you is, where do you live? And when you really think about where you live, right? You're like, oh, well, I live in Austin, Texas, or whatever. Cool. But what does that mean for you? Did you just move there? Was there a reason that you moved there? Were you born there and you just, have fear around leaving? Is there somewhere that you'd really love to live and you're just not sure what that looks like? When you're starting to take account of where you live, it can really, really, really be important on the journey to where you're going. And the reason why this is so important is because if you're trying to live a certain type of lifestyle and where you live isn't supporting that, then it's going to be really hard to stay on track with your own journey of where you're going than if you move to a place that would be more supportive. And let me give you an example of that, because it's really hard to wrap your head around just regularly, because you're like, yeah, life is fine, there's jobs everywhere, there's grocery stores everywhere, like what really is the difference? So years ago, we lived in Colorado, almost 3 years ago now, which is crazy. We lived in Colorado, right? We knew from like the second our relationship started, my husband and I, that we wanted to homeschool our kids. That's always something we wanted to do. I always wanted to homeschool my kids, and then when we started talking about having kids and we had one, we were like, yep, don't want to put them in public school. It's just not something we wanted to do. We both had very different public school experiences and neither of them were ideal, and so we just knew that homeschooling was something that we wanted to do for our family. Well, that's not really a big deal when you have a baby, because your baby's home, and then, pre-K, kindergarten, sure, kind of gets to be more of a big deal. Well, then we had baby number 2, and it really got serious. What are we doing here? And one of the biggest things that almost changed our trajectory in life was our oldest was about to go into pre-K kindergarten. And it was on that pivotal point where it was either homeschool, keep homeschooling, follow our dream and our goal for our family, or send her to public school. And the reason it became such a pivotal like choice was because in Colorado, homeschooling is not socially acceptable. It was once upon a time. Like, I used to have homeschooled friends when I was in school, but somewhere along the transition of the state, it really became something that was just not supported, and definitely not in Denver, Colorado. And so it was really lonely. There were no co-ops, there were no homeschool resources, there were no like opportunities for homeschool kids to get to know other homeschool kids. So we would be at the parks and there would be no kids. We would have no classes for homeschool kids, and there was just none of that kid-to-kid interaction out there, like at all. And so it really came down to, do we continue to homeschool and be lonely? And as a homeschool parent, when you're the only one homeschooling, it's lonely for you too. When there's no other homeschool parents that get your vision. So we were right on the brink of that, and then we decided that we were going to move to Texas for something unrelated, but bear with me. So then we decided to move to Texas, and when we moved to Texas, I started like looking into different homeschool options so I could figure it out, because again, we were reaching kindergarten. It was time to really start getting serious. She wasn't a baby anymore. And when we moved to Texas and I started doing all of that research, I found so many co-ops, so many homeschool classes. There were homeschool classes at sports. There were homeschool classes at the library. There were homeschool co-ops galore. Like, just in the city that we decided to move to, there were so many homeschooling resources that would never have ever existed in Colorado. And so moving to Texas, just from the homeschool aspect of our family, changed the trajectory of our future, of our relationships, of our kids' future, and our kids' relationships. And the reason why I share that story with you is because you might be living in a place where you always lived, right? We were both born and raised in Colorado. We never really planned on moving. The move was last minute. We talked about it, but it was really just down to like the wire of, okay, let's go. But we never initially wanted to move. But I think back to what our life would look like if we continued trying to homeschool in Colorado, and it would have been resistance. There would have been it would have been lonely. There would have been less options for our kids. And that's not a life that we wanted to live. But here that we moved, our homeschool vision just exploded because there was so much support and resources, and like just for our vision of our life. Back to my question, where do you live? Do you feel supported where you live? Do you enjoy where you live? Do you enjoy the people that you live around? Do you enjoy the culture that you're in? I know when we lived in Denver, the culture drastically changed and it became a hostile and unsafe environment for our family, and we were not happy there at all. We were not happy there. Now we live in a totally different place that's just more aligned with family values, with homeschooling, with all the things, and we're all thriving. Where you live matters because you either love it and it aligns with everything that you got going on and your big dreams, or it doesn't, and it might be time to have a very critical conversation with your family and figure out if there's a place that might work better for you and your goals and your kids and all of the things. Lastly, we get down to the nitty-gritty. What is your daily routine? What time do you wake up? What is the first thing that you do when you wake up? Maybe you read, maybe you do yoga, maybe you check your phone. What is it? What do you eat for lunch? Do you work outside of the home? Do you work from home? Do you get up and get your kids ready? What time do you go to bed? What do you do before you go to bed? Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a nighttime routine? All of these questions play a huge role in knowing where you're at, because once you figure out if you're happy with your job, if you don't want a job, whatever that looks like, and once you figure out how to spend your time with the right people, and once you figure out if you need to move or if you're happy where you live, then it all comes down to your daily routines, because your habits matter. The habits and the routine that you have right now have gotten you to where you're at in your life right now. And you might be completely happy and you might already be living the life that you love, and that is incredible. I'm so excited for you. But you also might not. And that's where all of these questions come in. And so knowing, you know what? I'm actually not living the life that I love right now, so I need to change something. What needs to change? Are you trying to lose weight? Maybe you need to add in some exercise or change what you're eating for lunch. Do you want to launch a business? Are you carving out time for that? Maybe you want to have less stress and more self-care for you. Are you making it a priority? All of your daily habits are going to show you what your priority really is, which can be almost kind of a smack in the face. Like, dang, I say I want to do all of these things, but here's my routine and I'm not doing any of them. And I hear you. It is so scary to take a leap in a new direction, but then not really know where to go. Like for me, launching this whole entire channel, podcast, all of these things required a massive shift in my daily routine. It required me to have to either wake up earlier or stay up later to have more time in my day to do all of this. And it was something I was passionate about, but my routine had to change to support the goal. And so for me, I decided to wake up earlier because I'm not staying up past 9 and you can't make me, which is fine. But then where's my dedicated time? Because dinner time, bedtime, shower time, all of that's for my kids. Morning time, getting ready, getting breakfast, all of that is for my kids. I work from 9 to 5. So if I'm not staying up later and I'm not waking up earlier, like my time has already taken. So you have to figure out if you want something new, then you have to do something different. And so I hope that you guys have, I hope that you've had a chance to dive into these questions and maybe even start thinking about conversations that you might want to have with your family, that you might want to have with your spouse, and figure out, are you on the right path to the life that you love? Or do you need to make some adjustments? Because either way, I am here for you, cheering you on 100%. I'm so grateful that you're here. And if you want to share this episode with your spouse, or you have a friend who might just need to hear this, share this episode with them, because figuring out your baseline is going to help you get to those big dreams and living a life that you love.